टल जाएगी काली रात अंधेरी, हम डोर डोर सा हंस बटोर लाएंगे, टूटेंगे नहीं नहीं।
Hi everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, to talk to you about comprehensive health, be it your physical health, be it your mental health, and be it your financial health, it is important to understand that all top-notch care being available, we need that affordability as well, and that is where premier, eminent, and the most respected, loved banks like HDFC Bank and an insurance company, health insurance company like us, Max Bupa, we come in. Ladies and gentlemen, the best tools against fight of COVID, especially for everyone in that age group, is mask yourself, maintain a social distance, stay at home unless it is really necessary to go out, and that should protect you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have nobody but the best, not just in India, but internationally as well. Let me quickly introduce to you somebody who doesn't need any introduction at all. Every citizen of this country knows him. He's not just a figure of repute just in India, but he's an internationally acclaimed person, a doctor par excellence, Dr. Naresh Trehan. Dr. Naresh Trehan is an Indian national, is a renowned cardiovascular and cardiothoracic surgeon, a graduate from King George Medical College, and subsequently trained and practiced at New York University Medical Center, Manhattan, USA from 1971 through 1988, where he obtained a diploma from American Board of Surgery and the American Board of Cardiothoracic Surgery. Dr. Trehan is the chairman and managing director of Medanta, the Medicity, where he is also the chief cardiac surgeon. Medanta is a very familiar name, an institution of apex medical care, a 1,500-bedded facility, multi-super specialty institute offering cutting-edge technology and state-of-art treatment facilities at an affordable cost. The institute is governed under the guiding principles. I would create this acronym CCC or 3C, which is based on care, compassion, and commitment. Dr. Naresh Trehan founded the Escorts Heart Institute and Research Center, where he was the executive director. It was conceptualized and created and managed by Dr. Trehan from November of 87 through May 2007. He is a recipient of countless prestigious awards, among which he is a recipient of Padma Shri, the Padma Bhushan, presented by the Government of India. Dr. Naresh Trehan also was the president of International Society for Minimally Invasive Cardiac Surgery, Minneapolis, USA, through 2004 to 5, and also has received honorary doctorate degrees from 3 very prestigious global institutions. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Naresh Trehan. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for giving. I would request Dr. Naresh Trehan to first share his thoughts. And I must tell you, Dr. Trehan, and you will be immensely happy and feel pride in the fact that we have more than 200,000 people on this video call, watching you and listening to you, a record of sorts, sir. And everybody is very eager to hear from you in the present context. The present context is a celebration of senior citizens, being the World Senior Citizen Day. But at the same time, I can't help but avoid the current predicament, the situation of COVID, and nobody more sensitive to this subject than the senior citizens of our country. Your valuable words will set the context and give a lot of confidence and information that's very, very essential coming from the top, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, and my greetings to all of you, the Dr. Babatosh, Mr. Rakesh Singh, all the members who are online from Max, from HDFC, and my fellow senior citizens. So this is a pleasure and an honor, of course, that I, being one of you, I can talk to you about how one feels as we age. So first of all, let me address the huge crisis that we are in right now from this unprecedented virus, which we really still grappling with how to cope with it. So you all know the history of how it started in Wuhan, went to some other countries in the West, including the countries like Iran, Italy, Germany, and then came to India by the way of travelers who were traveling either from India and were visiting there and came back, or people who were from those countries like the famous 14 Italians who were actually traveling through Rajasthan and found to have COVID-19, that they were rushed to Vedanta, and we have been taking care of COVID patients since then. So it's not in a way a pleasure, but it is our duty that we did it, and it's a pleasure that most of them have recovered and gone home, which is great. So now we are grappling with the fact that the last 4 months, what have they meant for us? So when it came to India, fortunately, the government of India reacted quite rapidly and went into a severe lockdown. Now, there is a lot of debate whether good, bad, medium, what it did or it didn't do, but I for one believe that that was essential and did a huge amount of good for India, and I'll enumerate to you what happened. So when we discovered that COVID was becoming like as prevalent in India as other places, we also realized that we were our infrastructure to deal with this situation was totally missing. So, in other words, we didn't have enough PPEs, enough masks, enough ventilators, enough bed capacity. So that lockdown, which slowed down the spread of the virus, broke the chain for a while, gave us that opportunity to be prepared throughout the country to a much greater degree, since we started seeing that our own countrymen, our own country business people came together and repurposed their industry into manufacturing PPEs and masks and ventilators and beds and everything else that was needed. So in a short period of time, we became self-sufficient, and the biggest pleasure was that we did not have to depend on a rogue country like China, because this came from China and we don't know what happened. We know that they did suppress the news for 4 to 6 weeks, which did a huge damage to the world. Anyway, let's park that. The other second benefit that came from this was that we expected that when the lockdown is lifted, unlocking takes place, that there will be a surge. But in these 3 months that the lockdown was severe, many things happened. One, the medical profession understood well how to deal with the virus. What is the pathophysiology, and what was the mechanism of death, what was the mechanism of inflammation in the body, and simultaneously enough drugs were developed so that at every stage we could intervene more effectively today than we could at the beginning. So let's settle the issue from the medical point of view. Lockdown was essential, it was valuable, and it has brought us to a level where we can handle millions of cases. We are now approaching 3 million, but there is a very high percentage of recovery, and many cases are asymptomatic or minimally symptomatic. So all this has been possible because of the partnership between the frontline workers, that is the doctors, nurses, technicians, all the other paramilitary forces, along with our business associates who came to the rescue by manufacturing all these equipment in India itself so that it could be accessible at 1/5 the cost of what was being imported from China. And also, this is a first example of Atmanirbhar, that we actually re-engineered everything in a short period of time. So that was the second benefit of this whole thing. Now, where are we? From the point that we know that infection of this virus, if happens in the following way. There was a study done very early in its inception in the world, that if you take one person who has COVID infection and you take another person who does not have infection, they are within 3 feet of each other and they are interacting with each other for more than 15 minutes, then the chances of the person who does not have the infection getting the infections become extremely high. However, if the person who has the infection and is wearing a mask and the other person is not wearing a mask who is uninfected, they are still within 3 feet and still a 15-minute interaction, then the chances become medium from high. If both of them are wearing a mask and they are within 3 feet of each other and it's a 15-minute interaction, then the chances become minimal. That is the origin of this whole mantra around the world, which says, wear a mask, stay more than 3 feet, preferably 6 feet. And the fact that if somebody who has got it has coughs on their hands or on a surface, you clean your hands and you clean the surface. That's the best protection you can get. Okay. So we have been saying this for the last 4 months, that this is what needs to be done. Okay. Knowing very well that that was the only weapon we have against the spread. We cannot kill the virus, but we can actually slow down the spread if we all became careful, which is the example which is come down from many countries who went on a mask day one, and they suffered much less than the countries where masking was not encouraged or even discouraged. So, lessons learned. One, these 3 things or that mantra that we talk about, this is your dharma now, of masking, distancing and hand hygiene. This will become a part of our life till we reach that point where vaccine or some other cure comes out which prevents all of us from getting the infection. So let's not even debate whether masks are needed or distancing is needed or not, or hand hygiene. It is needed, it is essential, and it is even more so today because we are unlocking and we are bringing into mainstream activity one by one. So now you know that the airlines are functional, the hotels have been opened. The next things to open will be probably international travel is on the anvil, then movie halls, then other banquet halls. So this will have to happen over a period of time, but carefully thought through. And the more we carefully set the protocols, the safer it will be. So in other words, when you hear we got to learn to live with the virus, I personally think it should not be live with the virus, it should be cope with the virus, that we are coping. We are coping because we are doing things to protect ourselves and our parents and our children and our society at large. So having said that, now we come to, because of our effort to prevention or protecting yourself, who are the most vulnerable to the virus? And what are the consequences to each? So first of all, any infection is first fought by your immune system. We know that the immune system starts from birth, but is a little immature till the age of 10. So you would say the children below the age of 10, need to be protected because their total immune system may not be fully developed yet. Then you take the teens to the 50 age group. That immunity time is the highest. And as you cross 60, your immunity starts going down. So if we studied, and which we did at Medanta, what we call age by decade, unrelated to COVID, we did a mapping of how people age every decade and what should they be doing to protect themselves at different inflection points. So once you cross the age of 60, women even 10 years before that, because they reach menopause at 50, your body starts changing, and the changes are the following. First of all, your hormonal system starts becoming weaker in the sense that your levels of hormones and enzymes starts diminishing slowly. The most important thing that happens after the age of 60 is that your muscle mass starts going down. Unless you actually bring it back by exercising, and that means that vigorous exercise, not just a leisurely walk in the morning. So one of the biggest misconception is that I go for a walk in the morning. I walk for 1 hour. Yes, you get fresh air. Yes, you do get de-stressed. But does that mean that your body has developed muscle enough to keep your immunity up? So first thing first, do not let your muscle mass go down, because that will start diminishing your immunity. So walk is good, brisk walk. If you can cover 4 kilometers in 40 minutes, 45 minutes, that means you are actually getting good cardiovascular activity. And that is true for everybody, the young and the old together. The second thing is that you need weights for your upper body, because walking will not do much for your muscle building of your upper body. So no matter what, depending on, you can start with sort of light weights and then go on and increase it and increase the frequency, so that if you are doing walking for 40 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes of muscle exercises, yoga being excellent exercise. If you do 10 Surya Namaskars, you've got a good starting point. Build it up to 30. If you do 30, you don't need to do any weights, because it will build all your muscles. And muscle is immunity. So one thing especially we always advise the older people, that the more active you are, the better you are protected, and the least you will age. On the other hand, you're stuck in your house because of the lockdown. So that's even more important, that you should be aware that do not become a couch potato. You must move all day, whether it's 10 minutes walking up and down in a room, every hour or two you go and do that, that's fine. Do yoga, pranayam of yoga, because see, one big thing that COVID has done, and we do not pay enough attention to the fact, is the mental state of people. So we know that you're locked up in a room, concerned about first yourself or your family or your extended family, then whether you are going to get affected, and if you're older, whether you'll survive it or not. Because you know, especially if you have comorbidities, especially if you are already suffering from some autoimmune disease which is immunosuppression, then you become very vulnerable. So you worry about yourself. That is a natural thing. And then there is an extreme economic burden on everybody, except the bankers, of course. So the point is that combination has created so much disturbance in people's minds. So their anxiety levels are high. That people have gone into depression. People don't know what is going to happen, and that is what is disturbing even more is that we thought that it will last for 3 months. Now we are counting 5 months and it's still not ending. So we don't know how extensive it will be and how we will come back to normal or new normal. So anyway, the point is that one, we need to take it in our own hands to protect ourselves. And I would warn especially the young who feel that I am not vulnerable, which is maybe true to a degree, but enough young people have also gone away from this earth. So don't be cocky about the fact that you are below the age of 50, that nothing will happen to you. I mean, you could be that one of those 10% who do get hurt very badly. But more importantly, we have a moral obligation to protect our children and our elderly. So if you have elderly at home or you go visit them, you have even a double responsibility, because if you infect them, you will never forgive yourself for the rest of your life. So that's so much for immunity by exercise. The second immunity is from nutrition. So because there is a tendency, because you're not doing enough activity, this tendency to put on weight, and you don't want to put on weight because you don't want to put on fat. So that means that your diet will be verging towards more protein, some carbohydrate, and very little fat. So you make your diet lean and you make it protein rich. So if you do the three things, nutrition, physical health, and mental health, that's the best you can do to cope with this virus and prevent it from happening. Because if your body is weak, it will definitely get to you. If you're strong, there's a good chance that you may not get it, or that your body will fight the viral load so early that you'll get a very mild form of it. So much for your personal health. Now, very little I can tell you about wealth, because Mr. Singh is there. He will tell you about that. But next, let's go to understanding what today is the science behind COVID and how we fight it, and why everybody should get a good idea of it, because there is somebody or the other, either in your family or known to you, who has gotten it or will get it. So let me just explain some principles here. So here is a virus, which of course nobody can see. It weighs 1,000th, 10,000th of a grain, whatever it does. Nobody really knows. But the point is that this virus first enters your body through the nose and mouth. Eyes and all, we speculate, but I don't think that there is any evidence that it comes from your eyes or ears or something. It comes from when you breathe it in. So when you say, how does it come? So when somebody has it, unprotected, you're within that person, either they are talking to you or coughing or sneezing, then those droplets come out and they go inside you. You've seen many pictures on the TV all the time. Anyway, the first 3-4 days, when the virus enters, it hooks itself to the ACE2 receptor, which is a normal receptor in our body. It's present in every cell. That ACE2 receptor, this docks, like you see the pictures of International Space Station going and docking and coming back and all that. That's exactly what happens. This virus goes, the spike that you see on the virus goes and docks with and draws nutrition and multiplies. So your first line of defense is that if you breathe it in and it's residing in your upper airway, if you gargle every day, preferably twice a day with lukewarm salt water, you can dilute the mucus here where the virus may be present. So that is one possible way of defending yourself. No harm, at least it will keep your throat and nose clean, and it may even protect you from the virus. So that is one part. Gargle with lukewarm water with salt. Second is the point that it will go down into your lungs once enough critical mass has developed. And then it starts affecting the tissues in your lungs. Now, initially we thought What the virus does is it goes and destroys the cells of the lungs. Then we discovered, not we, 40 cardiologists and doctors in Italy, Bergamo, they did autopsies on 50 patients and found out that the mechanism of this virus affecting the body is creating a lot of inflammation in the tissue. Not killing it, but inflammation. And when that enough virus mass is in your body and it goes and creates the inflammation, then the body reacts. And the body reacts by an immune response which we call cytokine. Now the cytokine, depending on the amount of cytokine that comes out to fight the virus, is what is the most destructive thing for our body, because it not only tries to kill the virus, but it also destroys or inflames the arteries. The arteries get clogged or clotted, and oxygen exchange does not take place, and that's how people die. So having understood that today, as I said, one is prevention at home. So prevention at home, nutrition, everything in the upper airway, gargling, I told you, so park that aside. Now there are some suggestions from our grandmother recipes about tulsi and giloi and all that. You can try all that. There's no harm to it. All these Ayurvedic things that are suggested, there's nothing wrong with it. It's okay. Second comes that if you get fever, which is high, persistent, you get a cough or sore throat, or any difficulty in breathing, or blue lips you see on somebody, must see a doctor right away. If the doctor believes that you have a very mild case of it and you're not in the vulnerable group, they may put you on home quarantine. On home isolation means that they will monitor you like we have from Vedanta. Every hospital, I think, has one, that we have several hundred patients who are on home isolation. Our teams will call them every day, morning, evening, check their pulse oximeter, temperature, this, that, these, and all the medicines that we have prescribed. So a large number of patients, around 80-85%, can be treated at home, provided they have isolation facilities at home. If they don't have, then we put them in what we call COVID isolation facilities, which are basically typical hotels like Lemon Tree, Red Fox type of hotels, where we have made contracts and people can stay there and be taken care of. The third stage is that somebody's oxygenation is going down, somebody's breathing problem or persistent high fever, then we immediately want to do a CT scan of the chest. CT scan will tell us immediately how far is it affecting your lungs. And depending on this, if we see a patch on the lungs, then we must use antiviral drugs right away. So those antiviral drugs, there are the new drugs that have fortunately been manufactured in India also under license from America and Japan. So one is the oral pill, what we call Favipiravir, which is now as being marketed as Faviflu. And the second is, with this Favipiravir is given by mouth, but there are 18 pills you have to take and all that. Is not a very pleasant experience, but it has mid-level antiviral activity. So when in the early stages, you can use Favipiravir, or if a patch appears, then we prefer to use Remdesivir, which is an intravenous drug which came from America, but is being manufactured in India by 4 companies. So there's enough supply of it. So that is what we need to start at an early stage so that we can decrease the viral load of the body. Along with that, we know when they reach a stage where the fever is continuing, in spite of Remdesivir, we put them on cortisone, because cortisone reduces the response of the body or reduces the cytokine storm. And also we put them on heparin to prevent clotting. So this is today the standard of care that we call, and should be available to everybody at least who needs it at this point. Then of course there are some experimental things like the plasma therapy, also to be instituted early if need be. Then there is a new drug, Tosi, we call it TCZ, which is also an anti-inflammatory. We are doing a study on it. Vedanta, along with 8 other institutions, are doing that study. So we will know the new things, what will help or not help. But I would tell you that in our own experience, more than 50 to 60% of the patients who went on ventilator did not survive till 2 months ago. Today, if you look at it, only 20% of the people who will not survive, 80% of the people, even if they go on a ventilator, can be saved. So, our number of people going on ventilator has gone down hugely as we understand the disease. So, today you can say 2 things. One, God forbid if you get it and you are treated in the right hands, your chances of survival are way up in the 90s. So that's a good news from very bad news. Now, if you want to find out when will it end, anybody who pretends that they know when it will end is lying. Any doctor, any scientist, anybody, I can throw that challenge. We don't know. Yes, we can give you some guesstimates. The guesstimates are that, say, like we track Delhi. Delhi was hit hard along with Maharashtra. Now Delhi is on the decline, and we are seeing that the numbers are diminishing, and we feel that maybe first 10 days of September or middle of September, we'll see it coming under significant control. Mumbai, Maharashtra is still not showing that same trend, although it is showing a slowing down. But places like Hyderabad or say Telangana, Karnataka, Chennai, Chennai is still cooling down, but those others are on the upswing. So we don't know. What is disturbing today is that Japan, Korea, even Germany and France are showing some resurgence. Now, if that is true, then what will happen to countries like ours? We don't know. So that's why I think it's important that we keep up our guard, do not relax, keep your mask. I'm sorry I have to keep repeating it again and again, but it has proven so well that if you want to protect yourself and go back to work, go back to semi-normal life, the new normal life, please use these protections. So with that, I think I've covered a fair amount, but if there are any questions left, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Trehan. So that was very comprehensive. I am sure that lot of questions already our senior citizens and others had in mind is already addressed in your address and the details you shared. If I may just summarize, sir, I heard it clearly from a very clear messaging point of view. Muscle is immunity. Do more rigorous exercise. Even if you walk, it should better be a brisk walk, and muscle means immunity. Second thing I heard is take care of your mental health. And if I may just use the word, be happy to stay, increase your immunity. I hope that I wouldn't be wrong in saying so. So stay engaged, stay happy, stress free. How you achieve it is by physical activity, proper diet, and nutrition. 2 very important things. And at the end of the day, the best tools against fight of COVID, especially for everyone in that age group, is mask yourself, maintain a social distance, stay at home unless it is really necessary to go out, and that should protect you. And the big silver lining, sir, I heard is it is no more as bad as it was when it started. There is more cure happening today than infection, so people are recovering. Less and less people are needing, let's say, ventilatory support or ICU admission, and more requiring so are recovering because of the medical fraternity has understood the disease well. There are more protocols that have been developed in treating, and more drugs and treatment modalities being available. Thank you very much for that, sir. Now, I would really like to ask you, being cognizant of your time, a few select questions. We have been flooded with a lot of questions, but I know your time is very precious. not just you and your hospital, but the entire medical fraternity, the doctors, the paramedics, and everybody has been in the forefront. And recently, what I heard is that that job is much more difficult job than a soldier, and all of you have our gratitude from the bank, from us at Max Bupa and people in general. The reason is, when a soldier goes out to the front, he knows that he may lose his life, but the family of the soldier stays protected inland. When a doctor or a paramedic goes to the hospital to fight against COVID, it's not just about her or him, it's about the entire family. You all are doing an incredible job. Accept our gratitude and sincere thanks for that. I would just quickly ask you a few questions that I have, sir, and read out them from a list randomly selected. Uh, the first question, sir, and this question is from Mr. Mohan Lal Chaudhary in Bhiwani. And each question comes laden with a lot of personal feeling and emotion. And that's why I wouldn't do justice if I did not read it word by word. He is asking, how could a senior citizen maintain his health when he is not allowed to step out of his house? No movement, no speaking, just isolation. Man in the age of 75 plus is usually surrounded with so many diseases and needs medical aid frequently, which is unfortunately a lot of times not easily available in these times. To cut short, he is left for a slow death. And what do you have to say about it? I understand. I see some bit of what you were, referring to, that this isolation causes a lot of stress in mind also, and a lot of that is evident in this question, sir.
So I'm sorry I didn't understand, quite get your last part of your question. You have to talk a little louder because my equipment is not.
Sure. The last part was, sir, he mentioned that a person of the age of 75 plus is usually surrounded with so many diseases and needs medical aid frequently, which is unfortunately in current times not easily available. To cut short, he is left for a slow death. And what do you have to say about it? Because of access to care is so difficult for senior citizen, and I believe he is 75 plus.
Yeah, so these are very genuine problems and concerns that the gentleman has. So, as far as being locked up in a small space, in cognizance of the fact that I said that yoga is something which you can do on a mat 4 feet by 6 feet. So you don't really need a very big space for that. So yoga is magical in a way. I mean, I practice it myself for the last 32 years. So I feel I can say with some conviction that it does not only give you physical strength, it also gives you more mental and emotional strength. So I think it's a good survival technique, even if you're not doing it otherwise. For this period, it is something worth learning. And now you don't need a teacher to come home. It's online. There are many programs. So I think that there is a lot of benefit in that. As far as being able to access care for your other maladies, like people who have heart problems, who have diabetes, who have other rheumatoid arthritis, all those things, there has been a huge problem for them. And we are very cognizant of the fact that many more people have suffered or passed away with the fear that they can't go to a hospital, and if they go, they'll get COVID. So that's why, if you look at it, we have tried to keep our hospitals totally segregated from COVID and non-COVID. So like in a hospital like ours, there's a totally different tower where COVID is taken care of, and there's totally full activity going on. We are operating, we have got, everything is going on as not to the level that we normally have, but at least 60-70% of the activity is going on, and patients do come because many people lost their lives with heart attacks, with burst gallbladders, things like that, which they ordinarily would have gone to see a doctor but were afraid to do so. And the other big thing is that people who suffer the most are the ones who are locked down in states where healthcare services are not so great. So to travel from there to institutions like ours is very difficult. So that's why it is, we have been, one thing I can tell you, from the way I see it, and if fortunately there is not a second wave or a third wave, that we will learn how to cope with it, in the sense that slowly everything is opening up, and the futility of general lockdowns has been understood. Yes, lockdown should be of hotspots, definitely, because that's where it can have benefit. But otherwise, trying to lock down the whole population is now not effective and counterproductive. So we need to just educate 24/7. 24/7. Mr. Rakesh Singh is here. If you see, don't let anybody enter your banks without a mask. Just tell them, excuse me, you don't have one, let me give you one. So if all of us keep stressing, keep that vigil on, we would have done our country and the humanity a huge service. So I think, I'll give you an example. We are consulting on airlines, how to allow airlines to operate. Okay, so I was on one of the committees. And the initial thing was, okay, masking for sure. Then the point came, I said, look, you can't drink water or eat food because you'll have to take off your mask. And one of the worst things is drinking water, because, you know, with the bottle you try to do that, and a lot of people will get a cough from that, and you will spray the whole bloody plane with virus. So once we got the handle on masking, no food, no drinking, a shield in front of you, and one seat empty in the middle, we knew that's the best you can do, and tell the airlines to turn up their air circulation to its maximum. That was the best way. And so far, we've not seen or heard anything bad happening from this travel. So that has emboldened us to say, open up the next. So hopefully over the next 2-3 months, we should have completed the opening with caution, with total control on everybody trying to protect themselves. If that happens, I think India will survive better than most other countries, especially better than America, which has always been careless and suffered for it.
Right. Thank you, sir. Now there are many people asking similar questions.
Can you please hold your mic, because I can't.
I'll hold it closer to my mouth. Yes, I hope this is better. Yeah. Many people have asked similar questions, sir. I'm just clubbing some of them together. Gopal Krishna Bajaj from Bangalore, Mr. Vikas Bansali from Balotra, and Mr. Rajendra Verma from Sonipat. All of them have a similar question. The question is something you have already answered to a large extent, which is about how do they take care of their heart on daily routine basis and manage stress. And when they speak of stress, and many others are asking this question, one element they are finding difficult these days is kind of getting good sleep. And that's a complaint that a lot of people are asking for some help with. Could you please respond to them, help them understand what they can do?
Yeah. So as far as if you don't have heart disease already, the mantra comes back to cardiovascular fitness, that is exercise. And like I said, either you are able to walk briskly, even on a treadmill or in a park, or you do Surya Namaskars, 30 of them a day, you would keep your cardiovascular health in good shape. Then comes the point of how to keep mental health. Okay. Now, mental health is easier said than done. Supposing your anxiety is whether you'll keep your job, or will you be fired, or will you be able to pay your EMI, or these are things that are very difficult to cope with. So the problem comes that how do you say to yourself, you need to build your mental strength to say, I'm not alone. The whole world is down on its knees, and so am I. But that does not mean we will not recover. So you need to reason with yourself and reason from outside. The second thing is, of course, entertaining yourself. Right? you entertain yourself. Thank God for Netflix and Amazon and Prime Video or whatever else you have. These are, that's one thing. The second thing is time with the family. All of us, to some degree, greater or lesser, me the most, are guilty of not having time for the family. So this is the time when you will not, hopefully this time will never come again. So you make the best of it. So do find yourself things that you would like to do which you have not been able to do because pressure of time. That helps. I mean, these are all talking points. I mean, these are easier said than done. But I'll tell you, pranayam, alom valom, is the most fantastic de-stressor you'll find. So anytime you feel stressed, just 2-3 minutes of breathing exercises and you will forget about your worries for a while. And 2-3 times a day in this kind of extraordinary circumstances is a recommended thing to do.
Thank you, sir. Sir, on a lighter note, I have personally faced a lot of questions of stress where people has told us that now we are living more time spending with the family and that's why we are stressed. So that's on a lighter note, which they were not used to. That was purely on a lighter note. There is a specific question from one of our viewers here who is asking about he is getting running nose, and this is Mr. Lionel Young from Navi Mumbai. He's saying that he's getting running nose and continuous sneezing every 8 to 10 days, and it lasts for about 2 days. He's 69 years old and cycles 20 to 30 kilometers every day, and he doesn't smoke.
So obviously he has what we call allergic rhinitis, because this is what a running nose does. And there is I keep, I'm an allopathic doctor, but I keep referring to Ayurveda and yoga. So Jal Niti is a washing system in yoga, very effective for people with chronic rhinitis. So maybe he should consult, learn it from a yoga teacher, how to do that. And gargling every night before you go to sleep, those are the two things you do. 90% you'll get cured of that.
Mr. Rajat Maini from Panchkula is asking that he's 70 year plus, and at this age he's finding it difficult to walk more than 1 kilometer non-stop, and he's getting muscle pains on both legs as he gets up from the bed in the morning.
Unfortunately, it's very difficult to diagnose people on a webinar. But I would recommend that if it is something chronic, then just wait till in Bangalore the COVID subsides a little bit. But if it is something acute, he should go and see a doctor anyway. There are enough hospitals which are COVID free. You should go and see one of them. So
his question is about, sir, which specialty should he consult in?
So if he's having pain in his legs, cardiovascular, even a cardiologist or a vascular service like a physician or a surgeon can measure everything inside your legs and be all right.
Yeah. The last question for the evening.
Okay, then I will ask some questions.
Sure. The last question for the evening, sir. A lot of people have highlighted that they keep hearing about and reading about sometimes COVID treatment costing very high, especially in cases requiring ICU admission, ventilator support, and so on. They are also conscious, they write about emerging treatments like plasma therapy, new drugs that are coming up, and overall there is cost associated with COVID. For them, what is your advice? I understand Mr. Rakesh is coming next, and possibly he has a lot of advices for them, which is very practical and useful. And I may pitch in later from a health insurance point of view. But what is your advice? How do people deal with this? What is the kind of cost they should see? Anything that you would advise them?
So you see, one thing, although the cost is high, relatively, of course, if you compare to any other country or any place where the quality, you're matching the quality, the cost is about 1/10 of what it will cost in, say, America or in Europe or something like that. But that's not any consolation for our population, because if the cost is 50,000 rupees a day, because if you need remdesivir, plasma, all the other antibiotics, hain, so the cost does become 40 to 50,000 rupees a day, which is a lot for people. Okay, and there are, although very small number of people who will get into the stage where they have prolonged illness and their bills may go to 10, 15, 20 lakhs that you hear about, but that is maybe 1% or less. It's not like everybody has it, but for that person it becomes a big problem. So that's where you should be able to answer that question, being an insurance man. That for you, it would be very simple to offer insurance, because you know, I'll give you an example. 90% of the people who get infected will be there and will not need hospitalization, although you have insured them, and their home program costs only 15,000-20,000 rupees for the whole illness. So it's not that the insurance companies will lose money. If you are hospitalized, even today, even at the insurance rates, the average bill of a patient rarely exceeds 1 lakh for 90% of the people who are admitted in the hospital. It's that 1 or 2% whose bill may reach 3, 4, 5, 7, 10, even 20 lakhs. But that's a very small proportion. So if you were to insure people, I'm sure maybe you will not make money, but at least you will be even and you will provide a huge relief to society. This is the time when all of us have to think outside of ourselves. And that will take me to the next question I want to ask Mr. R.K. Singh. So, Rakesh, one of the problems that all of senior citizens, or a large number of them, will be facing is what Babutosh just talked about. How to tide over this crunch where they are already on limited income, or maybe no income and only on pensions. So, of course, there is a safety net of different varieties, whether it is CGHS, CCHS, some insurance that they have. Ayushman is, for if you are really unable to cope with it. So those are safety nets that are there. But in this period, is it pragmatic for, say, people who do have a certain amount of ability to pay you back, to give them, senior citizens, a bridge loan to get over this kind of period, whether it is for whatever need it may be, at a lesser interest rate than is normally you charge for commercial transactions? Is that something asking which is impractical, asking for too much, or you would say you're already suffering so much that we are unable to help? One of the three.
I think this is truly a pandemic, so people have to chip in various manners. So, from a pure assistance perspective or financial resources perspective, can be provided. Cost is a different element depending on the risk, but if children of the senior citizens can chip in with, let's say, some level of support stroke guarantee, costs can definitely be lower. But yes, it is something that can be possible, and clients who have been banking with us for longer periods of time obviously have already existing lines of credit which they can avail from us. So if you are, let's say Dr. Trehan is banking us for 20 years, so you just don't have to even say, we know you so well, so we will be able to tell you, okay, here is, let's say, 3 crores, 5 crores, 10 crores, this is what we can give you on certain basis.
No, but see, your lending rate is probably 9-10%, 10% to your preferred customers. But for a 3-month period or 6 months period, could it be 5%, 6%, or will you be, because that's what you're borrowing from Reserve Bank, no? So I'm saying, if you did no profit, no loss transaction, that would help society hugely. I'm not only talking about your bank, I'm talking about as an industry. If that kind of bridging would help somebody, and even the children would be more forthcoming and say, I don't have to pay that much interest on it. Let me help my elderly parents. Is there something to think about? Maybe you just say, okay, this bank we as a bank have put aside X number of money, which instead of lending at 10% as part of our CSR, we'll do it at 5%.
Yes, sir. In certain, let's say in certain communities where the needy is truly needy, bank is stepping up. We have a large corpus, as you know, so we are stepping up in those communities and fulfilling our obligations. But depending on a certain case, if there is a community where this is required, we'll definitely look at it. But your suggestion is very welcome that if we can talk to the central bank and possibly form a corpus to assist that vulnerable community, it's a good idea. Actually, we haven't thought about it, but maybe still, this is not going anywhere for a couple of months more. So if it can be done, it is a good suggestion, because just like RBI has stepped up to help the community, let's say the industry, this may be one way to help the community as well.
Yeah, so you can choose a cutoff date and say over the age of 65, or 60 or whatever it is, maybe, because that will. I'm not sure it's going to make too much difference. It was a 3 to 6 month period you bridged on 100 crore. If instead of 10 crores you got 5 crores interest, 5 crores would be nothing for a bank like yours, but you have made a huge gesture to the elderly community, and maybe you'll get return many times over, because then we will all establish that you're elderly friendly. The HDFC Bank, maybe that's your new ad.
Obviously, sir, this is something we must examine. Yeah, we must examine. Right. I wanted to ask you a question. This is your birthday month, sir. Happy belated birthday. So.
Not today, it was a few days ago, but anyway.
Yes, so birthday month is there. So happy belated birthday. You've been very astute and very agile at investing. I've seen you in that. So does the yoga keep you fitter, or the investing keeps you fitter?
No, these are all. See, first of all, there is such a thing as fake news. Don't listen to rumors. In the US, we used to say that doctors earn and bankers blow it away, because of the fact that we never have time to look at our investments. So basically, it's true that every doctor, who's made some money, has this thing of trying to play the market. That is a very common tendency. And I'm one of the least ones, because my time is, but I see my own other friends and all that always talking about it. But how savvy they are, I don't think so. I don't think they make a lot of money investing. But it's a roll of the dice. Where I've lost enough money in investing, it's not a consistent. So if you meet somebody, see, I'll tell you your business, not yours, but the investment banker's business, who your advisor. He will come and tell you, the market went down by 30%, but your portfolio only went down by 20%. So that's you understand the reality, but that does not mean that your advisor was so smart that if the market is rising, you make money, and if it's dropping to that, and a fool also knows. So there is a lot of traps in there. And I think that best thing to do is to, be very conservative. Do not fall for these schemes that some of the advisors come up with. And I'm speaking from experience, because I've been, carried away because of lack of time. You don't think properly, and you just say, okay, it sounds good, do it. But overall, I'm quite okay, because I don't gamble. I don't really. So if once in a while I feel like I want to pick up a stock, I will. And you luck out and you do well, which is fine. And you have one or two of your people who advise me also, and have done reasonably well for me, so it's okay. But the excuse always is, wait, it'll come back, the market will come back. It's a month's game, actually. It's a roll of the dice. If you have some money, you want to enjoy yourself, do it. Nothing wrong with it. But don't carry this myth that I am a very smart investor and I can make a lot of money. Yes, I'm very smart in my own field to invest in my own field. Yes, that's okay.
Good, sir. So, on behalf of the bank, Dr. Trehan, really thank you. Thank you for your time today. It has been really wonderful taking us through this journey of COVID. And I leave it Bhavato. She wanted to give you a vote of thanks. But really, on behalf of the bank, namaskar for the service
So
to Vedanta, and thanks a lot to you.
I'll just tell you one simple thing, that there is a lot of currency for my elder compatriots to really follow a regime which means exercise in the morning. Absolutely what I said, 4 kilometers worth of either walking and some upper body muscles, or just vigorous yoga. Develop it. You can start slow, but you will see that your body responds hugely. Things that you have not done in your life, over a period of 1 or 2 weeks, you learn how to do it. You'll see, you'll discover your own body is so agile, and age does not matter. Aging is directly related to, so as I was telling you, muscle mass, you neutralize. Your proteins drop, so you must adjust your diet away from fat, more to proteins. Your bone density drops, which comes back with exercise, because you see older people break their bones easier. So your bone density can be preserved. There's nothing wrong. Your mental function goes down, and the more you exercise your brain, the better you'll be. So don't be passive watchers of just movies and stuff like that. Do whatever you know how to do, whether crossword puzzles or play a game or chess or play with your grandchildren. They'll keep you young. So I think that there is currency. So I mean, I'm protected by my profession. I have to get up in the morning and get onto my clothes and come to the hospital. So that's protected, but it keeps you going very well. So I think that one thing, that age should not slow you down. You should slow down your age, not age slowing you down. With that, I would just say it has been a pleasure, and thank you so much. And
Thank you, sir.
Good seeing you. And
Thank
Mr.
you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your
Sukesh
time.
Online. So Sukesh, you should design some special packages for senior people, including me, from Vedanta.
Sure, sir. Will do.
Okay.
Look forward, sir. Look, sir.
Thank you very much,
Namaskar,
Dr.
sir.
Trehan.
Namaskar.
Thank you very much,
Namaskar.
sir. Thank you for
All
your
the best.
time.
All the best.
That was quite an enriching, quite a informative session. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I would invite Mr. Rakesh Singh. And before I introduce Mr. Rakesh Singh, it is very important that I must tell you about this important fact. Now, Dr. Trehan is one of the eminent doctors. He has built an institution, as I mentioned, provides care which was not available earlier in this part of the world. But today, for the most difficult diseases, the best possible treatments are available here in India. And I have interacted with Dr. Trehan over last decade in many forums, and I can tell you with conviction that a lot of people in India do not suffer because the treatment is not available, but because the treatment for them is not affordable. It is important to understand that all top-notch care being available, we need that affordability as well, and that is where premier, eminent, and the most respected, loved banks like HDFC Bank and an insurance company, health insurance company like us, Max Bupa, we come in. Availing treatment and making it affordable is one part, but making people do so in a respectable way is another part. I can talk from my own experience and experience of others. When somebody suddenly needs to go to a hospital and needs a treatment, and I personally tested this out, and you call people to say that I instantly need 2 lakh rupees, it's not easy to get that. And no senior citizen who has lived his life independent, has raised children, made man, woman out of them, has contributed to the nation building of this country, would ever like to see themselves in a situation where they have to basically request somebody for a help like this. So the bank not just helps in protecting and growing your wealth. Insurance companies like ours not just help you protect your health, but the bank and us, we also help you retain what you have guarded throughout your life. That's your self-respect. Let me welcome Mr. Rakesh Singh and a quick introduction. Mr. Rakesh Singh is a very senior seasoned professional. He is the group head of investment banking, private banking, capital markets and financial institutions at HDFC Bank, India's premier bank. Mr. Rakesh joined the bank in the year 2011 and has been instrumental in setting up the investment banking and project finance businesses for the bank. Rakesh has over 27 years of experience in managing client relationship, debt and equity market, capital markets, structured finance, leveraged finance, debt restructuring, and managing proprietary investments. Prior to joining the bank in the year 2011, he has worked with all the noted financial reputed institutions like Rothschild, Morgan Stanley, DSP Merrill Lynch, Standard Chartered Bank, and ANG Investment Bank. He also serves as a trustee on the board of Sneha, Society for Nutrition, Education, and Health Action. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Rakesh Singh.
Good evening and namaskar. Greetings from the bank. From our side, we would like to welcome all our senior citizens to this webinar. We are fortunate to hear Dr. Trehan earlier. He's possibly been a gentleman who's been on the television right through this whole pandemic and has guided us. On behalf of the bank, we sincerely wish that all our clients and all their loved ones remain safe and healthy during this pandemic. So this is our wish that you all remain healthy and may you see the passing away of this pandemic very safely. One of the things that Dr. Trehan said is that you got to be happy in this pandemic. It is very interesting to see that money is one element of buying happiness, but not the only element that can buy happiness. So I was Googling for this webinar and I came across this thing called money can't buy happiness. And that led me to the UN World Happiness Report. I was very intrigued to see that Finland happens to be the happiest country in the world for 3 decades in a row. And why so? It's very interesting. Why so? So it all boiled down to the quality of life at Finland. Very cold, not a very easy climate to live in. But why so? Why was it's such a happy country? So we found that there were 5 factors, which came across why people in Finland were very happy. One of them was that they had the freedom to make their life choices. They had trust in their social institutions. They had trust in their political institutions. The life expectancy was longer. They expected to live healthy. They had great level of support from family and friends. And above all, the community had a sense of generosity. There was generosity within the community. Further, delving deeper, they found out what we saw this time actually in certain parts of India, especially I come from Bombay, so we saw it in Dharavi. There was a high trust within the community, and the community was very self-resilient. They were very, very resilient community. And people living in these communities they formed a social fabric. So in times of misfortune, they could get together and support each other. So staying happy, it comes from the social fabric. I think in India, joint families have existed. And I hope that this culture continues to, help us in this pandemic to stay happy and stay united together. But while I move on to wealth management, I also wanted to share an incident with you. I was very fortunate to meet one of the leading movie stars recently, early part of the year. So when I met him and I was reading his profile, I saw he was 60 years of age. So when I met him, he looked a shade younger than me. I'm 51. I thought great. So we were served coffee. So I asked him impromptu, does this coffee have sugar? He said, yes. He said, this filter coffee does have sugar. I said, low sugar or full sugar? Oh, full sugar. I said, excellent. So I said, you're 60. You have any dietary pattern? No dietary. Absolutely. I lead a very healthy life. It prompted me to ask, being a professional, I said, what is your life all about? He says, listen, I sleep 8 hours a day. So at the dot of 10, I'm on my bed and I get up at 6 a.m. in the morning, followed by an hour of exercise. 8 a.m. sharp, I eat my breakfast. and then prepare and read my script for the first 2 hours between 8 and 10. At 10, I get ready and leave for my shoot. At 12, I eat the regular lunch, which all of you eat. 12, I have a snack at about 4, and I eat my dinner at 7, just around sunset, but don't eat anything after that. So it prompted me to ask a question. So what happened to your parties? I hear film stars do a lot of parties. Well, that's only on Saturday night. Okay, nothing else. I only do that on Saturday night. And he's 60, 61. He looks so fit that it amazed me. So I realized that this whole time allocation and diet allocation was very important. So it came back to our world of investments. And the very important fact in the world of investment is asset allocation. Asset allocation. And on the subject of asset allocation, I would like to bring in a very pertinent investor called Ray Dalio, the gentleman who wrote a book called The Principles. Principles is the book written by him. He manages a 150 billion hedge fund called Bridgewater Associates. And they decided this portfolio called all-weather portfolio. The all-weather portfolio in the US has 55% in bonds, 30% in US equities, and 15% in hard assets called gold and commodity, which basically is gold and commodities. What they've seen over a period, right? They started this, structuring this portfolio from 1976 until 1996, 1975, and 1996. So in 21 years, they actually optimized their portfolio. And after optimizing, they've seen that the portfolio has returned till now, YTD, somewhere 8.11% till date. Very interesting to see that. So then they dissected the portfolio. How did they manage this whole thing? And it was interesting to see that when the markets are expected to fall, like what we just saw in the pandemic, bonds do very well. So you saw the bond yields actually move down. We in Indian context also, we have seen the bond yields come in from, let's say, 640 to all the way about 580 odd. And hence, bond funds make a lot of money. However, when you expect growth or when you expect inflation, then stock markets tend to get better returns than bond markets. And hence, the stock allocation in the portfolio does very well. So coming to senior citizens here, I think what you would like to suggest is that when you are experimenting and you're looking at keeping a very stable portfolio, I would recommend that from an investment perspective, 60 to 70% of your portfolio should comprise of fixed income, bond funds, REITs, InvITs, giving between 6 and 7% of return. Currently, they have become lower because of reduction in interest rates. You may also, to keep, as Dr. Trehan was saying, that some interest in the stock market, keep your mind live, put something in the large cap funds which show lesser volatility, between 10 and 11%, and keep, which currently gives 10, 11%. So allocation should be between 20 and 30% of the large cap funds. And on the mid cap funds and maybe gold, you can stagger and put somewhere between 10 and 20% of your wealth. This asset allocation is similarly like the diet allocation and the time allocation of this South Indian movie star, which I met, who at 60 looked 49, 50. So I'm sure this asset allocation will also give you some kind of a similar feeling. I have often been asked a question, and I was at a seminar in Chennai, and this gentleman got up and asked me this question. This is very simple. I can also do this. So what is the advice in this? So I said, but why can't you tell me to invest more in mid cap and small cap? That is where you make the return. That is where I need the advice for. So I was very prompted to say, sir, have you been to a roller coaster ride? He said, yes. So I said, do you love it? He said, yes. But for how long? He says 5-10 minutes. So I said, if you invest in a lot of your money in mid cap and small cap funds, the ride in the roller coaster is a little longer than 5 and 10 minutes. So it gives you volatility, it gives you a little bit of heartache, but if you can withstand it, is fine. That example made him understand that when you do invest in mid cap and small cap companies, you need to have that level of allocation right. This allocation is right for senior citizens, people who have higher risk appetite or higher appetite to experiment and wait for longer duration. They must invest in higher growth companies and individual stocks. But people who are in the senior citizen bucket may look at a very balanced level of asset allocation per se. Coming back to Indian markets, what we are seeing is a very interesting shift. Actually, there is a shift in the underlying Indian economy. I will give you some data points which will be very interesting I could have given you more, but I'll just stick to something which I'll give you is very relevant. Jan 2008, 12, 13 years back, the oil and gas index was oil and gas uh, composition in Nifty was 25%. Metals and mining was 8%. 14% was the allocation of construction, cement, and cap goods. So if you put this economy, which is oil and gas, metals, cement, cap goods, and construction, you come to a ballpark allocation somewhere between 45 and 50%. Fast forward today, if you look at the allocation of Nifty to the kind of sectors, your banks are at 30%, which were at 40% prior to the pandemic, but now are at 30%. And IT and technology is at an equivalent weightage of 30%, and pharma is another 20%. So we are clearly seeing a shift of allocation of capital in the stock market away from old economy, industrial economy, to services and knowledge economy. And that is happening because most of the businesses are becoming capital light. They want to have lesser leverage, lesser loans. They are focused on higher ROE, and technology itself is bringing a lot of change around us. So industrial economy is getting definitely a lesser allocation of capital as we go ahead. In terms of our own view on the markets, I think we would advise, we believe that further allocation of the stock market to IT, pharma, chemicals, insurance, cement, consumer durables, larger corporate banks is something which we must look at. Our investors must look at. The Atmanirbhar scheme of the government of India, the PLI scheme, will definitely be beneficial to chemical companies. They will also be beneficial to companies which are in the industrial economy. They will give that one-time lift off. And people should definitely look at investing across market caps, as we were talking earlier. So a larger allocation to large cap and a smaller allocation to mid cap and small cap. So just to summarize this thing, Dr. Trehan said muscle is immunity. So in case of financial markets, asset allocation is that muscle which provides you that immunity, right? So you may have you may have challenges, but asset allocation is the muscle that provides you that immunity. The second thing he told about is stay engaged and stay happy. So how do you stay engaged and stay happy is by going down to ensuring that when you are allocating, you allocate very properly, you understand what your risk appetite is, and accordingly fit your investment patterns into that appetite and that allocation. He also said very interestingly, in pandemic, just ensure that you don't, you wear a mask and keep social distance. Every bull run brings that pandemic in the stock market. So when in a bull run, everything is rising, like real estate prices rise or something like that. So you got to ensure that you keep that social distance in that bull market to ensure that you invest rightly and don't lose money, because losing money and getting that capital back is a very difficult task. So on this note, I will thank all of you and hand it over to Bhavtosh if he has any questions.
Thank you, Rakesh. Let me ask you a very important question, and this will be in the minds of many of the bank's customers. What special products and offerings does the bank, HDFC Bank, have for senior citizens?
So I think we have, if you look at the bank's product offering, I think most of our ultra HNIs generally bank with us. We offer wealth products as such. We recommend a lot of annuity driven products currently, because the insurance companies currently have come up and they are offering fairly attractive annuity schemes, which give you tax-free yield in the vicinity of 5.5%. You know, it ranges from 5 to 5 point something to maybe something at 5.6, 5.7% as well. So we definitely recommend people to look at annuity schemes who especially are just retiring, because they can actually take this one-shot annuity schemes, and if they're in a higher tax bracket. The second thing we recommend is a allocation into fixed income products per se. So maybe they put some money in FDs with the bank to keep the liquidity. They can put some money in the bond funds as such. And obviously we have the senior citizen deposit scheme, which is our hit product, where we pay, where the deposit rates are higher, and they must experiment that. And I'm sure people who want to be associated with the capital market, it's good to put some money in mutual funds as well. It's good to go with fund managers because it's helpful from a perspective that they fund managers have the ability to dynamically allocate assets across various market cycles, and hence they reduce the actual volatility in the hands of the investor.
Interesting question, Rakesh, that people want to understand that how safe are corporate fixed deposits, because they are giving a relatively better return as compared to bank fixed deposits. Is it safe?
See, corporate depends on the nature of the corporate you pick up. You've seen variety of corporates. So if you talk to the larger corporate houses in the country, so they've been reasonably safe. But there have been a string of other corporate FDs which have come from not so strong companies. So if you are investing in a AAA corporate FD, yes, obviously I would say it is safe. But when you are going down the risk chain, the risk increases tremendously. So you got to compare a bank deposit which is fairly liquid. Very liquid. You can come to the bank at any point of time. You can take a premature encashment. You can take a loan against the FT if you want to. So a lot of facilities are there, and when you build a track record with the bank in an exigency, when you need money, you can always provide money, liquidity against that FT as well. So a AAA FD or a bank FD is good. You can't say the same thing about a corporate FD per se. Other corporate FDs per se.
As an seasoned banker, what would be your advice to somebody who just retiring with a corpus in terms of allocation?
Well, we discussed this as a part of my conversation. I think 60-70% should go into fixed income funds, basically fixed income yielding products, whether they are essentially bond funds or there are annuity schemes or their REITs, InvITs, something which gives them a yield of 6 to 7% currently in that vicinity. Some of them will be tax-free, some of them will be taxable, depending on the holding period. So if you're holding it for 3 years of corporate bond funds, then the tax liability reduces to that extent. 20 to 30% in large cap funds and 10 to 20% in mid cap, small cap, which gives you, if the fund manager get the cycle right and get the script choice right, then he definitely makes a higher return for you.
So your recommendation on the overall equity exposure for a senior citizen, all exposures put on equities?
30 to 40%, not more than that. And as you grow older, it should keep reducing. So 60% fixed income, 70% fixed income, 80% fixed income, that way.
Certainly. That will be very useful to our senior citizens. Something I would take from Dr. Trehan's and Rakesh's advice and very, very wonderful, important inputs is that health is comprehensive. It does not have one side. There are many aspects to health: physical health, mental health, and certainly financial health. And no better than HDFC Bank, the premier bank of India, to be your partner in that. You are in the safe hands, and it is important to be in safe hands, because I have personally, and we have done research to see, in these times which are volatile, all that you need is trust more than ever. And there is nobody more that you can trust than HDFC Bank. You must diversify your portfolio, and how to do that is something we got to hear from the best in the industry. I would add that health insurance is an important element. You must consider health insurance. I'll give an example of a recent product called Reassure that we launched, which has very little waiting period for COVID, and it is an exceptional product. So please invest wise, invest with the best, the ones that you can trust. I'm sure these are very, very important actionable inputs to you. Thank you, Rakesh, for your insights and your time. I'll quickly move to requesting all of you customers and participants to a poll. You please take part in this poll, but before that, there is a health and wellness help desk open to attendees on 21st of August between 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. and on 22nd August between 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. where the attendees can reach out to the bank for queries on wealth and queries on health. You might like to note down the numbers. For wealth, it is 022 489 489-689-68222. I repeat, it is 022-489-68222. And for health queries, you can reach out at 080-471-89736. I repeat, 080-471-89736. So thank you very much, and please participate on the poll that is going to run for you. It is important. Please stay online.